Alright guys, such comic again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So for our fascinating opening weekend of competitive Call of Duty this season, the World Champions back in action tonight, starting their season exactly how they would like to. Some other big results though elsewhere with some major storylines as this season continues to get underway. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Let's just dive straight into the first series. Falcons versus Thieves. Lots of storylines in this one. Cellium versus the team that he potentially could have joined this season. We believe that instead of Thieves getting Kenny, they looked to get Cell, they looked to get Drazah, they ended up with Kenny instead, but Kenny has been pretty good so far this stage. Yes, they've only played a couple of games, but it looks like he's definitely in a better position than he was last year, but again, it is very early in this season. Does not mean, however, the results today do not have some serious importance. So this Falcon series was pretty fascinating. Formal was given a few thoughts on Pred and Kenny. Look, I don't know if there's any crazy major beef between Pred and Kenny. We talked a fair bit about it with the process that happens and everything that went down with OpTic last season. What was clear is that Kenny and Pred were not having fun on the same team. Kenny was not particularly happy when Pred came back into his team. He did have that quote in the process where he was like, damn, we get rid of this one guy and all of a sudden our practice is productive again. Something like that anyway, he said. Obviously, that was paraphrase. The point being that maybe, you know, outside of the game, everything's okay. But Formal says, I think the way Kenny wanted to play the game and how Pred didn't match up. They've got a lot of wars back there. There's definitely some tension between them. So it was always going to be pretty exciting. And, well, the series in many ways was pretty fascinating because Falcons came out swinging and they won map 1. I don't know what's going on with this picture or why the Falcons have cooked their own players this hard, but you know, it ain't a great look for all the lads here. So let's just move on from that and spare them blushes, because this was looking good, because map 1 on the Scar, it was an absolute bang out fest. The most notable thing about this map was the HyDra. So this 18 in 33 here, this is not Kenny. Some people, you know, might have thought it was. No, that is HyDra, meant to be your star SMG. Now, look, if you have watched HyDra's career over the last few years, he gets better as the season goes on. It is actually quite a, you know, HyDra's amazing, obviously. It doesn't even need to be said. But he does appear to be, I don't know if slow learner is the right way to put it, but in recent seasons, his stage 1, stage 2 has always been worse than his stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, right? And this year, again, early doors, it feels like HyDra is just kind of finding his footing. Look, his highlights are still absolutely highlight-worthy. This is an interesting map, really, because even with the SMG, the Dravik becoming more viable, today we were seeing plenty of M15s. Here's Pred with an M15. Even aBeZy was using the M15 at a time. So if you're HyDra trying to run a sub, you can get put in the blender. It's something they're going to have to think about and to work on. But Falcons come out and they win the game 1. I mean, look at the hype. Look at the energy in the facility right here. Pred, Xnid, Kismet, and Cellium, they get the win. They get over the line. And they're shouting about it, right? And as well they should. Big map win against the Los Angeles Thieves. Could they convert that, however, as the series went on? Are they actually going to celebrate here? Why is the video so long? There we go. We finally got the celebration. You can actually see Clayster on the far right-hand side of the shot here, coming across the stage, giving the fist bumps. He's got his work cut out this season, that's what I will say, because, you look, the Falcons have some quality players, there's no doubt. But putting it all together as a team, I think that is going to continue to be a big challenge for them. This was the only reason why I brought this screenshot up, really, was because what I thought was funny about this is that usually it's Kenny, the one smiling. You guys have known in previous years, their team will be getting slammed or they're doing the slammage. Kenny's laughing and joking about something. And Kenny was laughing and joking here, but I just thought it was funny that all of his team was smiling, laughing and joking. HyDra's cheese and aBeZy's cheese. I don't know what they're laughing about, but Kenny looks pretty locked in. And they absolutely dominate this map. So it's just like Falcons find a way to win the first hard points. And then they get completely belted, to put it bluntly, on the Den Search and Destroy. aBeZy, Kenny, HyDra, like all kind of taken over this map too. There was really no fight back from the other side. And all of a sudden, the momentum massively switches and the series is pretty much done. I mean, the Den overload again was not close. Kismet had a rough one here, 0.6 on this map. And then the map 4, to be fair, both of the hard points here were kind of cinema. And Thieves, we've seen it the other day, like, Their hard point is their shaky game mode right now. Their other game modes still look pretty good. Again, Scrap, not a massive fan of Overload, but had a good map here. I mean, he was actually cooking, right? Like, 4,500 damage is absurd. That is one thing Scrap definitely still is doing this year. It is dealing damage with the AR more so than any other AR in the league. They win the exposure in the end. They get the job done in a 3-1 fashion. Scrap with a 1.1 with 14,000 damage somehow. HyDra does recover to be nearly even. Kiz was the one statistically with the really bad series here. And look, Pred and Celium, to be fair to Celium, map 1, look at his hill time, 115 seconds. Nearly had 2 minutes in the hill. But I can't lie, watching Pred, some of these maps, I'm like, okay, yeah, we're playing for the win, are we? So I'm sure Shotzzy would have some thoughts on that. But look, the reality is that the way that Pred and Celium have played the game, having them on the same team, there's got to be a level of adaptation there, right? A lot of the time, they are going to find themselves, I think, in the blender as a result. So it's not like there isn't talent on that team. It's just right now they're not executing, and I don't know how much confidence I have that they really will this season, but they're getting paid enough bloody money to do so. So, you know, hopefully they can turn it around and make it an interesting season for them. Because, you know, I think with all the money they're spending, you'd hope the Falcons would be a competitive force this season, mixing it up with the top teams at least at some point. Right now, that's not looking that likely, but I guess today wasn't totally horrific in some way. Thieves, they get the 3-1 job done. 2-0 start to the kickoff weekend, aBeZy says. Kenny says in hardpoint, we're just got to slow it down a bit. Pretty fast-paced team. Feels like Kenny's settling in reasonably well. I mean, look, people were kind of expecting Kenny to be drawing 0.7s every series, 0.6s, but look, second highest damage on his team, only behind Scrap and Pred in the lobby, 1.06, you know, very solid series out of Kenny. More of that to come from Kenny means that, well, Thieves will have a very good season indeed. This is also a crazy stat. aBeZy is now 11-0 when facing former teammates. So when he has either dropped or players have either been dropped from his teams and they've gone on to play on different rosters, he's beaten all of them all the time. Now, of course, many of these guys, Cell and Simp especially, were there as well, but he's now beaten Drazah and Simp in their first rematch, FaZe versus Thieves, and now he's beaten Celium as well. So that is quite the storyline. This series, though, was very interesting. So Gentlemates played FaZe Vegas. Now, Gentlemates considered by many the second best team in the game, effectively, behind OpTic Texas. They started at map 1 on fire, right? Their hardpoint looks really good. And, I mean, this was a crazy moment out of Ghosty, to be honest, right? Ghosty looking really good at this game so far. Pops 2, pulls out the pistol, gets the third kill. Sib team kills him, but he's already killed the whole team. That's a 251-49 game 1. Not a pretty scoreboard from FaZe, but the scoreboard did turn around in the search and destroy. Now, again, this was the Simp show, really. I mean, look at the dammy out of Simp on the other side. They get the job done on Scut, tie up the series. Then it goes FaZe's way in the overload. Then it's back to Gentlemates in the hardpoint. Envoy had a really nice 3-piece here on the exposure. Eventually it goes all the way to 5, but of course, you know, FaZe versus Gentlemates, you can definitely see it going the distance, but for FaZe to come out on the game 5 and absolutely slap them around. I mean, look at this game 4. Drazah had 9 kills. Now, that might not be right because these numbers literally aren't correct because they just forget to count at the start of the game, but within reason, this gives you a reasonable, at least, perception of what was happening on the map. Anyway, Drazah had a really hard time. Sib had 2 minutes in the hardpoint, as did Ghosty. But on the final map on the Den, they just got absolutely bodied, 6-0 slammed by FaZe, and the overload was not close either. So, yeah, interesting, right? Because in scrims, a lot of the time what they play is hardpoint. Now, obviously, we have seen some series played by Gentlemates, but look, they got the 2-3-5, right? I mean, maybe this is it for FaZe. They are the Neslo team this season. I don't know. It's an impressive win. I think FaZe will obviously be happy with their early work, but both at a respawn, both at a hard points, not pretty, right? Neptune 1.5 game 1, Simp had a 1.3 and lost. Map 4, Draz actually got 10 kills instead of 9 once we counted up the kill feed and all of that. Still wasn't pretty, obviously. And Envoy had a 1.8 that map. But if you look at the overview, it was Simp with a 1.26. His first 2 series, by the way, have been pretty insane. I think his first series he had like a 1.3, and then here in his second series he's got a 1.2. So look, he's trying his best, right? And yeah, FaZe get the Neslo. They get the map 5 absolute demolition job in the end. So what's great about this result, it keeps the season real spicy. You know, Gentamates aren't getting off to a crazy hot start. FaZe are clearly, you know, people don't rate them that highly, but they're clearly not down and out. They got a great victory here and shows they can beat the top teams, and you know, I still think are a top team, at least in some form. Simp had a few words to say, was like, look, we've got to lock in for the hard point, but a 1-1 weekend, I mean, look, for FaZe, you play Thieves, you play Gentamates, your opening weekends, you'll take that, I think, as a 1-1 start. Ghosty says, we've really got to work on our search and overload. I could have told you that, but yeah, we didn't give ourselves a chance today. Again, Ghosty does a tweet for the loss, gets well over 1,000 likes on it. The Gentamates fans are definitely going to support their team to the hilt this season. Simp also doubles down on his take about confidence at the end of the season. He says, Tyler said it best yesterday, that being aBeZy. The team needed a vibe switch. We had to change roster, but I'm confident we're a grind-heavy team, and at the end of the year, we will be where we need to be. So, of course, that indicates they ain't going to make any changes. Of course, you never plan to, but, you know, the point is that Simp is pretty happy with this roster. He wants to ride it out, and in a few months' time, he thinks they're going to be real competitive. For now, it's going to be a work in progress, it seems. But let's talk about the finale of the night, OpTic versus G2. This was a fascinating series, and, well, you gotta say, there was one man who really made it work this series, and this is what's crazy, because watching this series, we've seen series from OpTic like this in the past, right? Previous OpTic teams, they turn up to an online series, they're expecting to win, they have a bit of a slow start map 1, they lose the map 1, all of a sudden, things start to spiral. They're like, oh my god, we might actually lose to these guys. And G2, I think, are solid, right? So I don't think OpTic are really thinking in that way. But sometimes you need a playmaker just to get you out of trouble and make the right play and clutch rounds. And that's why Mercules is impossible to beat, because the guy is just too good. I don't understand how this guy always makes the right decision. Anyway, we'll talk about that in the Search and Destroy. The drama to me came really, well, it was funny in the hard point. Shotzzy, literally, the first 5 seconds of the game, had already caught Skies in a hostage, right? So he already had Skies by the neck, and they eventually lose the map, though, which is pretty interesting, because Shotzzy, I don't know what he was doing the first couple of rounds, or first couple of maps here. There was some talk over the last few days that Shotzzy, these later games, it's past his bedtime. You know, a 3 p.m. Shotzzy game, he's different. But, you know, 6, 7 p.m., 9, 10 p.m., it's past his bedtime, right? He's got to get his cookies and milk in. So the first couple of maps looked a bit like that. But eventually, G2 did a great job. Kremp, big takeover from him. Mumba as well. Really impressed by G2. We saw some glimpses of this the other day as well. They win the Scar. Shotzzy 19 and 31. But then we go to a Search and Destroy. Right? This is when the bounce back is required. And this is when the bounce back was delivered, right? So we got a couple of crazy moments, really. I mean, this was probably the big one for Merc, but then he did it again a little bit later. Mercules 1v2, 27 seconds on the clock. He just hops the bomb, and, like, it's such an unorthodox play, I think, to make in this situation, because the guy, you know, he's just been spotted top window. Skies run down the stairs, which you shouldn't really do, obviously. But, like, when Skies gets a kill there, surely you're expecting Skies to probably stay up there and re-peek, because that's where you can see the bomb from. So obviously Skies makes the error, but also if you're Skies, do you ever expect Merc to just hop it? Obviously that is Mercury's best chance of winning the rounds, and then they realise, hang on a second, we can't see the guy, and then he gets the ninja. I mean, just such an incredible play. It is genuinely like he is an industry plant / and human anti-cheat / I don't know, like COD God's gifts to OpTic Texas or something, because I don't know how he just knows how to make these plays. And then he did it again. I mean, this was an unbelievable round, actually, because OpTic threw this one away, really. They kind of messed up the way that they went about planting it. Mumba got a couple of kills. And at this moment, I was thinking in my head, like, based on where these arrows are, what they're looking at, the right play is to re-wrap all the way through to top pool house. And Merc thinks exactly, I mean, he doesn't even see any of them. He doesn't know where they are, doesn't know what they're looking at. He knows one's to the right pool house, he knows one's to the left, but he makes exactly the right play at exactly the right time. They just about go to hop the bomb. Mercules comes around the corner, rips him off the heady in about 3 bullets, just hits all the shots, and then in 15 seconds to go, there's no way you're beating Merc in this one. Even here, like, it's possible to make a mistake at this point, but Mercules just doesn't make any mistakes, and he loses the gunfight in the end, but it doesn't matter. So perfect plays out of Mercules. That was enough to get them over the line in the search and destroy in the end. Then we went to an overload, which was, again, fantastic to watch. I'm really enjoying this new overload at the moment because I think because it's a little bit lower scoring, at least on some of the maps on exposure you can kind of run away with it, but on Den, it's not massively high scoring. The pistol makes it a bit more challenging. I think it's a really good game. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. Even the games that are a little bit more one-sided, I still think they're good to watch. Much better than Control. Maybe my opinion over time will change, but this I thought was really cool from Shotzzy. Again, he takes Mumba hostage this time, which again is a good play because it takes him out of the fight for longer than it would otherwise. They get a couple of captures in. They get over the line. Again, Mercules just popped like a huge 3-piece in the lead up to their second capture. So, look, Shotzzy had a pretty rough first couple of maps. Merc bailed them out on map 2. Map 3, Mercules and really Shotzzy took over. And after that, it was one-way traffic. This is what happens when the top teams really get flowing. And then the final map, really, it was Dashy taken over double positive. And Skies started the series well. It didn't end in quite that way. So OpTic Tech to start out 2-0 on the season. Great start to the year for them. And I just think today was very indicative of how Mercules has improved this OpTic lineup and how, well, scary they're going to be for the rest of the season. I think G2 are pretty good, but today OpTic got the job done pretty emphatically. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Lots to talk about tomorrow. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.